Hi, it's Jeff Rosenheim from the Metropolitan Museum of Art. I'm the curator in charge of the Department of Photographs, and I'm speaking to you not from my desk at the Met, but from my home where I've taken shelter with my family for the last 2 months during the coronavirus pandemic. While I can't offer you an actual tour of our current exhibition, entitled Photography's Last Century, I can provide a kind of virtual tour. The exhibition celebrates a remarkable gift from our trustee, Anne Tenenbaum, and her husband, Tom Lee, to the museum in honor of our 150th anniversary. The collection is particularly notable for the breadth and depth of works by women artists, for a sustained interest in the nude, and for its focus on artist beginnings. This is a photograph by Cindy Sherman from 1979. It's considered by most the tour de force of Sherman's series of film stills that she began in 1977. Here, a lone woman on an empty highway peers around the corner of a rocky outcrop. She waits and waits. The photographs are unsettling, yet deeply satisfying syntheses of film and narrative painting. What to make of this strange and beautiful and unexpected photograph by Paul Strand? Of all the works included in our just opened, just closed exhibition, this is the one that seems to haunt me the most. The photograph dates from 1916 and is the earliest in our show. But it looks to me more like a Robert Rauschenberg combine from the 1950s or 60s than an American work of art in any medium from the 1910s. Nearly twice the size of most photographic prints by Strand's contemporaries, it confirms Strand's break with the tired pictorialism of the era and established the artist as a cutting-edge modernist. Strand's mentor and gallerist Alfred Stieglitz reproduced the photograph in the final issue of Camera Work. There he described his protégé's work as brutal 3 times in one short paragraph. The American photographer Edward Weston moved in 1924 to Mexico City with Tina Modotti, an Italian actress and nascent photographer. They were each influenced by, and in turn helped shape, the larger community of artists with whom they lived and worked, which included Diego Rivera. In fall 1925, Weston made a remarkable series of nudes of the art critic, journalist, and historian Anita Brenner. Depicting her body as a pear-like shape floating in a dark void, the photographs evoke the sculptural hermetic simplicity of a work by Constantine Brancusi. Brenner's form becomes elemental, embryonic, female and male. Diane Arbus made this photograph in New York City in 1966. It's titled Two Ladies at the Automat. Arbus likely encountered the subjects here in the same Horn and Hardart restaurant frequented by the surrealist artist Joseph Cornell, who had a sweet tooth and loved their pies and inexpensive chicory coffee. Arbus had photographed inside the automat episodically for some 8 years before she met these two women wearing impressive pillbox hats, not identical twins or likely even sisters, but perfectly matched, harmonious members of a close-knit community. Robert Frank made this famous photograph in Charleston, South Carolina in 1955. It appears in his publication, The Americans. The book almost instantly changed the discourse of American photography. I've been thinking about this work and what Robert Frank said about his practice in 1961. Quote, "Black and white are the colors of photography. To me, they symbolize the alternatives of hope and despair to which mankind is forever subjected." The artist Gregory Crutzen made this photograph in 2005. He describes his highly scripted works as single-frame movies. To produce them, he engages teams of riggers, grips, lighting specialists, and actors. The storylines in most of his photographs center on anxiety, disorientation, fear, loss, and longing. Here, the final meaning remains elusive. A woman in a nightgown sits in crisis on the edge of her bed, with the remains of a rose bush on the sheets beside her. The journey from the garden was not an easy one, as evidenced by the trail of petals, thorns, and dirt, and yet the protagonist holds the plant's roots tenderly. One of the most expressive and idiosyncratic European artists to investigate photography in the late 1960s was the contrarian painter Sigmar Polke, who had a deep, if short-lived, fascination with the medium and its metaphysics. The 5 photographs by Polke, shown in our exhibition, are among the artist's earliest and finest surviving works with the camera. Here, a park bench in 1972, are blanketed by stains, intentional processing errors, and crafty technical mistakes. The hallucinatory effect creates an intriguing, if challenging, visual confection of description and destruction, all produced by the premeditated warfare that the artist has waged on the print surface itself. A self-taught expert on the invention and history of photography and on Zen Buddhism, Hiroshi Sugimoto posed a question to himself in 1976. What would be the effect on a single sheet of film of the exposure of all 172,800 photographic frames in a typical full-length movie? To visualize the answer, he hid a large format camera in the last row of seats at St. Mark's Cinema and opened the shutter when the movie started, and an hour and a half later, closed it when the movie ended. The series, filled with gleaming white screens, presents a perfect example of dualism, the classic concept of opposites in ancient Chinese philosophy. This photograph by the German artist Andreas Gursky is titled Prada 2. At the time of its creation in 1996, the quasi-architectural study was one of the largest color photographs ever made. It is about 10 feet wide. Gursky generated the print using newly available digital tools to artificially stretch the underlying chemical image, to remove the goods on display, probably shoes or handbags, and to digitally produce the billboard-sized print. The work is a Frankensteinian glimpse of what was to transform the medium of photography in the next 20 years. The South African photographer Zanele Maholi is a self-described visual activist and cultural archivist. In the artist's hands, the camera is a potent performative tool of self-representation and self-definition by communities at risk of violence. Maholi has chosen the nearly archaic black and white process for most of their portraits, quote, to create a sense of timelessness, a sense that we've been here before, but we're looking at human beings who have never before had an opportunity to be seen. In our age of easy access to digital image-making tools, Maholi and others have restated the importance of the physical print and connected their work to that of their progenitors. In this recent self-portrait, the title, in the artist's native Zulu, translates loosely as, "Wake Up."